All right, people. All right. بسم الله إن الحمد لله وكفاه والصلاة والسلام على رسوله المصطفى وعلى عباده الذين ارتضى ومن بهداهم اهتدى وبآثار أهل المدينة اقتفى وبعد فسلام الله على القوم أهلا وسهلا بكم ومرحبا Juan Ying Layth, bienvenidos a todos, people. Pakhair Ragle, Khushamadid. And as always, people, Swagatam, Swagatam. Let me just check first and foremost that things are all good. If the audio is coming through fine, let me just. Oh, people, what you can't see is my gadgets that I've set up here. Right, let me just check that it's feeding through to the Facebook people. Bring up the YouTube chat. Azarati, you're doing it, man. You're doing it. All right, people. Eid Mubarak. Eid Mubarak, people. I take it first and foremost, you can all hear me fine. Is that audio coming through good? Whilst you're confirming that, I'm just going to share this onto my page. Un momento, people, un momentico. Right, so what's been going down? Yeah, I've got to be careful here. Just in case my pattern gets broadcasted. This one big problem, this one big problem. So, yeah, what is going down, people? What is going? There it is. Just share that out. Right. Q&A live. Unrestricted, people, as always. Right, so that's going down. All right. Somebody said you've become. Audio is good. Shukran, shukran. Earthling soul. Vah, 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 vah. Somebody saying, what do you do with your chest hair? My chest hair. Should I sell it as barakah? Maybe I can make some special taweez out of it and get that sold. So, this one, interesting, interesting. So, those of you that don't know, people, first and foremost, let's get a big Eid Mubarak out to everyone. All right, that's our hand signal guy. Those of you that remember, I can't get over this guy. I'm going to be honest with you. He's from that Boris Johnson. That's actually legitimately him giving hand signals. I'm not making that up. Let me just show you guys. I've had to capture this image and just store it. So there he is. So peoples, what's going down? What's going down? Let's first of all, Eid Mubarak! Eid Mubarak! Eid Mubarak! Eid Mubarak! Eid Mubarak! Oh, that's hilarious, man. So, peoples, what is going down? What is going down? What is happening? I hope all of you have had a blessed, awesome Eid. Ramadan, to be fair, I think just kind of glided by quite swiftly. Why lie? I mean, what? At this point, it would be good for me to kind of say something like, yeah, the month I never got to do enough ibadah. But everybody would know I'd be blagging anyway. But I suppose there would be some truth in that statement. Because I never got to do enough. Meaning hardly did any. But No, no, no. It's a very blessed, a very spiritual month for for people. Now, those of you that have not known, people, eyes on TikTok. I is now on TikTok. That you can see right there, people, right there. That is my, whatever you call it, scan code or whatever it is. People add me, subscribe. You know what I thought? Okay, let me share my thoughts with you guys here. Yeah, Rick, let there be a sip of chai first. So, what I thought is that, look, any interesting, especially humorous snippets, those kind of things, the memes, they don't have to be memes in that sense. So there is obviously the naughty, but other things as well. I'll be sharing them. I'll share maybe poetry on there. I'll share things like, you know, maybe some reviews and stuff like that, but have it slightly different from my, let's say, obviously Facebook is a bit more, I don't know, maybe more serious at times, and it's got the lives, and I use that, and YouTube, I suppose I have my whole channel, and Instagram. It's good for different things, you know. I'll share occasional kind of more serious stuff or snippets from a lesson on IGTV, and I'll, you know, maybe put pictures sometimes. I'm not like, you know, these social media models of so, but this is for more for kind of like humor stroke ilm stroke banter stroke, but people, make it happen, get on there. That's what it is, people. That's what it is. So let's get some poetry to start off the day.
कहते हैं प्यार में नींद उड़ जाती है।
वाह,
कोई हमसे भी मोहब्बत करे, कब तक नींद बहुत आती है यार। हाय हाय।
So, what is going down, mi gente? What is going down? Let's take some of your questions as well. Somebody said, Mufti Abu Layth is doing, this is actually a kameez. Flash it just to show you. This is actually, you know, it's like, this is a proper Eid ka Chand scenario, isn't it? You seldom see me in shalwar kameez. I do wear shalwar kameez occasionally. Yaar, chalta hai yaar, hota hai yaar. But occasionally, I thought, since it's Eid, why not? So what is going down? Somebody said, how you doing? I'm doing good, lillahi alhamd, lillahi alhamd. But you know, it's, I was just, you know, in this time, I guess we evaluate our own lives, isn't it? We're kind of thinking, yaar, I was just thinking, you know, I need to do so many more things. It's, it's, I was thinking that, you know what, as this lockdown concludes, when it finishes, I need to, I don't know, like there's so many things I've not really been optimizing. I need to do that. Chalo, let's see. Somebody said, Mufti, what's your opinion on Boris Johnson? You know, this thing has been hilarious, people. Those of you that haven't seen it, damn, I don't think I sent over the, I'll see if I can get it brought across whilst we're speaking, but the Dominic Cummings, people, Dominic Cummings, we've got right here, I'm just seeing, this is an absolute joke, you know, the senior advisor to Boris Johnson, the man responsible for these kind of regulations, for these kind of things of saying lockdown, stay at home, don't social distancing, guidelines, the impositions, there should be fines, there should be this, there should be that, and people not going to their own funerals, not their own funeral, but their own family members' funerals, or they're not going to not going to their own funeral. That would be rather interesting. They're not going to see their parents. They're not going to see their siblings. They're not going. All along, Mr. Cummings, he all along is playing the to his wife in Durham, Eyes Cummings. He goes, "You is waiting, Eyes Cummings." And he's driving over 200 and something miles on his trip going up there, and he got caught out, people. He got caught out. You know, the worst part is getting caught out, I guess. Because at that stage, you're totally shafted. So he's kind of been caught out now. And he's had to kind of justify that, what have you been doing? Ye sab, ye kya macha raha hai? What the hell is going on? So he's had to, he's come up with, what it is. This was essential travel. We could not arrange. I had his son who's ill or isn't ill, or no, his son isn't ill. He's come up with these weird things like I couldn't arrange babysitting, so I had to drive there to make sure my wife is safe. But there's a plot twist. He himself has COVID-19. He's like, yaar, jate jate. As Eyes Cummings, eyes spreadings. And then he's been caught out again. He's been caught out. He rather decided to stop along the way to take a look at some castle or something. Why not? Why not? So he stopped to take a look at some castle. He stopped in some woods. He's been spotted, exposed. So he's kind of had to string together some story saying, oh, well, what happened is he said what it is I wasn't sure. I had to go again or something, and I wasn't sure. So to test my eyesight, if I could drive. Because of the COVID, my eyesight had been... And so to test it, I went on a drive for several miles. I can't remember. I think he went on, was it a 40-mile drive? But he went on some drive down the motorway, wherever it was. And then he said, and that's when he stopped off in the, I think he stopped off at this castle, or he's done something. And the government is like, well, makes perfect sense. Let me get this right. If you think you're blind, right, is that how it... Chalo ye bhi sahi hai. Why were you doing that? Well, Your Honor, I wanted to test whether my blindness had stopped, and what better way than to put my 1-year-old or 3-year-old son in the back of my car and drive down the motorway. If I crash, take it, you know, obviously my eyesight still needs a bit of working on. All along we had, there was some professor who lost his job. I think it was just in these weeks gone, because he had been caught, you know, the other urge, I can't, he was also, the professor was like, yeah, I needs to be Cummings. He had to go see his girlfriend. Yaar, hota hai, yaar, you have to understand, you know what it is? The ummah needs to be a ummatan wasatan. You know, ja'alnakum ummatan wasatan. We made you a balanced ummah. We need to kind of have sympathy, empathy for these scenarios. So the guy was struggling, you know, he needed to go, and so that bechara miskin lost his job. He should have also said, Your Honor, I just want to check if it's still, I want to test if it's still working. If Cummings can test whether his eyesight is still good enough for driving, so he just drives down the motorway with his kid in the car. No, no, this is just an eyesight test. Cha cha cha. There's nothing else to look at. हमको समझा हुआ है का? You know, it's like cha cha. Does it say something beginning with P over here, spelled P-U? So if he could do that, the professor could have said, well, you know, I just needed to check if, Your Honor, if the equipment was still working fine. I just went for a simple test in the best interest of this national country, really. In the national interest, I did this. You know, I don't want that people, the rate, the ED rate, to increase in the UK. So people, this is what's going on with the UK. This is what's going on with the government here. It's an absolute joke. How can the government be seriously saying that's perfect sense, and then at the same time be screwing over other people who've done it, who've kind of gone out and said, you know, yeah, we're going out, and said, no, 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 how dare you go out? You know, so you can see here, just one moment, I'll bring this up as well. Peoples.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Un momento. I've also got something else to show you guys. So, see, now I feel like, you know, you do 1-2 things with the computer and you feel like a hacker. You're like, yeah, I must be doing it, man. I must be doing it. Let's see what is going on, man. What is going on? This one. Let me just un momento. Right, so here it is. I'm just bringing this up. So this was an example, and this is really, Twitter had just exploded, and social media, people were going mad, and I feel rightly so, that how can it be that, you know, that there's one rule for the government and there's another rule for the peasants, you know, for the plebs. So as you can see here, people, this was an example that Rishi had said Dominic Cummings has made it clear he was motivated by trying to protect his son, and he took steps to be safe. So he had driven for an entire hour to test his bad eyesight. So acha cha cha, humka wo samjhe hue ka. And what you gotta love is how, to a certain extent, they get away with this stuff. It's like, how does that happen? How do people actually get away with this? Oh, man. This is the day and age, people, the day and age. As some people would say, end of days, man. End of days, man. End of times. So, meanwhile, in other news, right, I don't know if you guys have come across this post. There's just un momento. Somebody had made a post about how there was something about God saving the Bible. So my sister-in-law died in a fire. Her Bible was beside her bed and on a stand. Not a burn mark on the Bible. Awesome miracle from God. You see, people, this is when people then take the mick out of religion. So, people, let's take some of your questions. What is bothering mi gente? Que lo que, mi gente? Que lo que? What's going down? Let's bring up... Oh, I'm loving this gadget, you know, by the way. I've set this all up. I've stream decked it, people. Those of you that think Mufti doesn't know IT. You think just because I left school with no IT GCSE. So, What is going on? What is going on? Frowdy Frubbery! You're doing it, you're doing it, you're doing it. Peoples. So, you can send your questions. YouTube. I have brought up the Facebook questions as well. Those of you sending stars on Facebook, Gio, Meri Jan, Gio. Sufyan, you're doing it. And if you're on YouTube, the equivalence is sending super chats. That's how you do it, people. That's how you do it. That's how you get your questions always read out. यार मतलबी दुनिया यार मतलबी दुनिया people are like यार ये मुफ्ती कर क्या रहा है what's his ¿qué es eso ¿qué estás haciendo what's going down right, okay, somebody's asked about Patreon. There is a Patreon. I have set it up. I haven't launched it. Soon come, people. Within, hopefully, this coming 1-2 weeks, I'm hoping it's up and running. Somebody's asked, Nimra, you're doing it. Ah, that's always an intriguing name, don't you think so? A tiger. Alright, or I guess feminine tigress. Doing it. Oh, the question's gone now. See, I got distracted that the oh no, there it is. Mufti Sahib, name me a book to know the fiqh of Sunni Islam. Alright, okay, this is an interesting question because it depends in what language we're looking to learn. I think that the way people should learn fiqh. Okay, here's my advice. In fact, I'm going to top this up, right? So, people have asked me as well about what books should we get for hadith. People have asked me in the past, like, what books should we be studying for fiqh? How should we be studying these things? So, let me throw some ilm bombs at you people. Right, so what is this all about? Look, first of all, my advice to people who want to learn, first of all, I think that's an amazing passion. Definitely keep it fueled, keep that flame kindled. So, what I would say is that begin with just get I'm going to speak about fiqh, then I will speak about hadith and then the Quran as well. So we'll go in that order, ending with the Quran, obviously the ultimate. So fiqh, I would say start with an beginner's course. You can choose any madhab. You don't have to listen to people say, you have to choose. No, I think you have to choose. To begin, you have to select a madhab to learn, but does it have to be the madhab your parents are on, and does it have to be the madhab of your neighbors and your neighborhood and your ethnicity or whatever? No, it doesn't. I mean, a fine example, a living example in front of you is moi. People, it is I. So I chose the school of Medina, which is the Maliki madhab, and there's a different thing on what are these madhabs about, but in a few sentences, the teachings of the Prophet were disseminated by different people through different perspectives. They spread out in different parts of the land. Some settled in the northern Arab kingdoms, which is the Middle East, Iraq, etc. Others stayed in Medina. Some settled in Mecca. Some south in Yemen. Some in Egypt. And basically, their interpretation and perspective would vary, just as mine would vary from another person, another scholars. So who they taught, they kind of built a community around them that the living tradition of Islam in that community was then trapped ain't the right word, was then kind of documented, and it became a madhab. So what happened is there were many madhabs, so some people have said, maybe there was something like, I mean, I've got so many books just up there of all these different salaf who had their own madhab. I mean, you could say whether they were in the 10 schools or whether they reached the hundreds, Allahu A'lam. But over time, 4 persisted. So that's, in a nutshell, that's over. You've got these 4 madhabs, the Hanafi, the Maliki, the Shafi'i, and the Hanbali. Hanbalis hardly exist, really. We're just letting them in as a sympathy job. It's like, yeah, really, that wasn't fair. I needed to do the little finger for the Hanbalis. I need to kind of duck the little finger in as well. Make it like a proper dwarf. So, acha acha, tusa bhi aaye ho. You're like, acha, yeah. Inko bhi saath laaye. Do we need a crash for the Hanbalis? Is there crash? Is babysitter around? Or so anyway, these are the 4 schools. Now, moving on to fiqh, you need to study some fiqh. You can choose a madhab. I would personally say go with the school of Medina. The school of Medina is where Imam Malik was, but it doesn't have to be. You don't have to choose the school of Medina. Obviously, to me, it's the Don school. Why? In 2 sentences, because of one, where it was, which is Medina, where is the inherited practice from the Prophet, where thousands of companions died and were buried, so the tradition carried on. 2, it is one of the only schools that is so grounded in 2 things, in tradition, sunnah, and then on maslahah, welfare. Okay, so that makes it unique for me. But anyway, whatever you choose, then get a basic book and just start learning. You could get, there's so many things online. You could get elementary books in, whether it's the Maliki madhab, Hanafi madhab, whatever. Start learning just what to do. It just tells you this is how you pray, this is how you fast, this is how you do this, this is how you do that. And just learn it. Now, along the way, you may get questions. Then you ask someone. Okay? Or you're watching a course, or you're listening to a course, and along the way, you get questions, you ask. But a basic text should make sense. I've got a few courses already on YouTube. I've got a very elementary Ashmawiya text. It's in 6 lectures, audio lectures. Then I've got a slightly, I've topped that up with another one by Qadi Iyad, the legend, the Don from Muslim Spain, Maliki, of course. He, the author of the Shifa, if you've heard of the Shifa, as the poet said, كلهم حاولوا الدواء لكن ما أتى بالشفاء إلا عياض. Allah, Allah, Allah. Shifa is a book about the Prophet, and it's a legendary book. See, once again, I don't know whether it's the best for people in this day and age, but it's got a lot of things in there. But it's got incredibly popular when it comes to the seerah of the Prophet. So the poet says all of them, Shifa means a cure, and he says all of them try to bring a medication, but it was only Iyad, Qadi Iyad, who brought the cure, brought the Shifa. Allah, Allah, Allah. So that's I've got his Foundations of Islam, which is in about 20 lectures, audio lectures. That would give you a very good understanding of your basics. You can start. I've got, by the way, a very detailed course I'll be airing maybe once a week, maybe twice a week, called the Risala. I've done just 2 lectures already of it. It's on YouTube. What it is these are from my archive videos. So they're old videos, as in probably about 7 years old now. So some of my views might have changed. So when I will begin it, what I'll do is I have to air it, live stream it. So it's a pre-recorded video. When I say pre-recorded, it's a previously recorded. And then at the end of the lesson, I will probably top up. If I've changed maybe my views on something, I'll add to it. I'll basically add a commentary on my commentary. Vah, 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 vah. So that will give you enough about fiqh. What you can do is you can start topping that up by wanting to learn about the Imam, who was the Imam, or who were his teachers, what was his life about. You can Google this stuff, Wikipedia, add to it, make notes, proactively learn. Okay, and then you'll get to a layer where you start learning about differences of opinion, and they say this and we say this, and then you add to that, why do they say that? And then, okay, this is their evidence, this is our evidence, and you start kind of making decisions. You can start reaching out to scholars. You can start saying, well, you know, I'm confused about this, let me ask him, let me ask. Okay, cool, that's fiqh. Now let's move on to and I think Imam Suhaib Webb has a book on the essentials of, I think it's fiqh. Now, I think, I could be wrong, but I think it's also based on Maliki fiqh. I know in the UK there is a book by Sheikh Ali Laraki, which is on Maliki fiqh as well. And Aisha Bewley's website has a lot of resources on the Maliki school. Cool. Second section. People, I get asked a lot, how should I approach hadith? So a lot of people ask me this. Right, those of you just tuning in, by the way, you can like and share. कोई बात नहीं यार. जरा सा बदनामी होगे. You know, you'll get a bit, your reputation will go bad, मगर बदनाम अगर होंगे क्या नाम ना होगा? You know, you'll still have a name. Right, so the people ask me this quite a bit. I want to study hadith. What should I do? Should I buy Bukhari? Should I buy the Muwatta of Imam Malik? Right. Should I how should I do, how should I learn hadith? Talk to me. So people ask me this. Now, somebody's, how did you meet your wife? Which one? Right, so look, people, focus, huh? I am the captain now, I'm the captain. Focus. Right, so look, hadith, people, we are in a new era. I need you to understand this. This has almost never happened before in Islamic history. Okay, you've never had an era where this kind of material is then available on this level to, I don't mean this in a bad way, but to the common people, common folks who are non-specialists. So in the past, it was very clear. People studied Islam. People thought, look, some people thought, I want to get into Islam and I want to become a scholar, I want to do this. Other people became doctors, other people. And the vast majority of people just were probably craftsmen, tradesmen, farmers. These kind of people would never have like owned a copy of Sahih Bukhari. It would be meaningless for these people. Like they just kind of got on with their lives, listened to some khutbahs, read the Quran, listened to nice preaching, like, you know, today's equivalent of like Mufti Menk style, and that's it. But what's happened is things have now changed. So people all of a sudden want your common person, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing. It's fair enough, it's a good thing, I think it's a great thing. But we've got to understand. So people say, look, I want to learn more about Islam. That's amazing. I want to learn about Islam, that's great. They say, okay, how should I learn? I'm going to go and buy Sahih Bukhari and put it on my shelf. I'm going to buy Sahih Muslim, Tirmidhi, you know, Abu Dawood. You see, these hadith books, what are these hadith books? Now, I've got an analogy. I don't know if this will make much sense, people, but you have to understand what a hadith is. A hadith is simply a document stating some person's claim that the Prophet may have done something, or said something, or acted in a particular way. This is what it is. Hadith were documented averaging about 100 years after the Prophet. Then they were en masse collected another 100 years after the Prophet. So about 200 years after the Prophet, people started to really organize hadith. Okay. So 200 years is a long time. And people, they try to do a very rigorous job in trying to document certain things, and they made these databases. So these collections of hadith, like this, you can see behind me, Awn al-Ma'bud and Abu Dawood, that's on the Muwatta, Istidhkar, and you can't see these others, but they're further up on the other shelves. Sahih al-Bukhari and Muslim, these are like databases that these imams put together. Okay. By you getting the database, what does it mean? This is a bit like, this is what it's like. It's like, imagine 500 years from today, somebody could access your almost a browser history. Toba, toba. Yeah, this, that. Your reputation would go straight out the window. Acha-cha, private browsing. Now imagine they could access your browser bookmarks. Okay, so you know your favorites or bookmarks that you can create within browsers, your internet browsers. Imagine somebody could kind of, they 100 years from today, 200 years from today, they were really interested in you, in learning about you, let's say, and what they got hold of is this. Here are 300 favorited or bookmarked browsers. I mean, yeah. So sites, pages, or whatever they are, but they've been kind of bookmarked in this person's browser. Now you're reading through that. So imagine I'm reading through, like, so you're really keen, or imagine you are really keen 200 years from today in learning about me, Mufti Abu Layth al-Maliki. God forbid you come across my, you're like, huh? No, but so let's say you've come across you've got now my bookmarks, yeah. In my browser, there's 200-300 of them, or there's 500 of them, let's say, or there's 50, whatever. You're reading through them. This is the kind of analogy that I'm giving, or a parable in that sense, an allegory, sorry, for hadith. It is true, let's say, let's go with it is true, that this has been bookmarked by me. Now there could be a chance that some of them were not bookmarked by me, that somebody was using my internet browser and they bookmarked them. It could also be that when I did bookmark these, I didn't necessarily agree with it. I just bookmarked it because I wanted to refute it. Like imagine you came across a website and it said something like, oh, let's just say vegetarianism, and it was about being a vegan. So somebody might now, 200 years from today, say, you know what, Mufti, I think, was a vegan. Why? Because he had 3 pages bookmarked in his browser which were to do with veganism. Now, it could be that's true. I mean, I'm not, but it could be that, let's say they got that right. Or it could be I bookmarked those to say, well, let's see what these people's arguments are, or to refute it, to say that this is nonsense, I'm going to refute it, or to share with a friend, or to... You see, this is the amount of insight that a hadith book database can give you about the Prophet. You don't really know. Like it's okay, it's true that maybe this is from the Prophet. It may be the way the bookmark thing was from me. It may be somebody else did that one day whilst using my phone or my computer. It may be somebody mixed the hadith up, got it totally wrong. It may be that the Prophet did say certain things. It may be that he was actually saying it in a different manner and somebody understood it in a different manner. So the Prophet was saying it to refute it, and somebody understood it as maybe, oh no, that's all right. Or the Prophet said something saying it's okay, and somebody thought, you know, the Prophet's being sarcastic towards it. Or maybe the Prophet was using sarcasm and somebody took it literally. Maybe the narrators along the way mixed it up. Maybe it's right, maybe it isn't. This is as much information that you can take away from hadith books. So it is quite tricky, really. Right, so it's really like, what do you do with that information? So I would say, yeah, I mean, if you want to buy hadith books and go through them, fine, go through them. But remember that, keep this allegory in mind, that these are simply historical databases that an Imam collected. When Imam Bukhari collected it, maybe he collected it to show that, that I'm just putting this here so people know that this is absurd. Maybe he put it there to accept it. Maybe he put, obviously then Imam Bukhari's book itself obviously was, I feel, tampered with to some extent later on. But when Imam Malik put a hadith in, sometimes he put a hadith in to show you that this hadith is definitely not true. But I'm putting it there just so you don't think I don't know it. So that's what it's like, okay? So that's my thing on hadith. So many people, when you ask me, should we be following hadith, should we be buying hadith books? Sure, by all means, but that's how you take away from it. Cool, let's finally I'll touch upon the Quran and then we'll get back to some questions. How to approach the Quran. So we've done how to approach fiqh, we've done how to approach hadith, now how to approach the Quran. The Quran, I would say, people, just go with, once again, depending on your level, go with something simple, okay? Go with something simple, just what has a good enough translation. People say, you know, in the past I did read a bit from, I can't recall it now, but from like Pickthall's translation, people said it's good. Whatever translation is good for you, go with it. Simple. It's just translating the Quran. Maybe once read through an entire section, either read through the whole Quran or read through a section. So let's say I'm going to read through a short surah, or it doesn't have to be short, or a juz. I'm going to read through this juz. First time, just read through it with its simple meaning only. So you've got a simple translation, you've read through it. Second time, maybe now, if you want, if there's certain parts that are really problematic, by the way, then when you're reading through it, maybe look those parts up. So you can maybe Google, what do people say about this verse? Because, you know, I don't like the way the way that's translated, it doesn't settle well with me, or it's left me really confused. Somebody has said, Farhan has said that, look, some translations ain't good. I agree. So whatever is simple enough, okay, you can go with it. Now, then the second time, maybe go over that same juz but with a commentary. You could, in English, I think the study Quran should be fine. I don't really care, you know, all this stuff people say, it's got all this in there, it's got that in there. I don't really care. I think it's just propaganda. And, you know, it doesn't, to me, it doesn't make it's not a big deal. But to some people, you know, it's like, oh my God, you know, it's bloody the apocalypse. But to me, it's no big deal. I think a great effort went into into making the study Quran. So fine, in English, I think it's great. But you could go through a tafsir. On archive.org, there is the entire tafsir of the Quran in audio by Noman Ali Khan. You could just go through that in audio. You know, you've read through it. Now, this month, you're going to just listen to the first juz. You're just going to listen to a certain amount whilst you're doing things. And now, now you've done that. Now, there may be certain things you've highlighted. Now, if you're saying, well, by the way, you know, with highlighting, should you highlight on the Quran? Several ulama say it's okay to make kind of like indications and things on the Quran. Personally, I don't like it. I wouldn't personally highlight on the Quran out of respect towards the Quran. I would probably just put like a marker, like a bookmarker or something like that, if you want to do it like that, or maybe put a little sticker. You know, you get these kind of page stickers that you can just take off. They're just like highlighted and things, so you kind of remember. People do say you can. I mean, I guess it's not a sin or anything like that, but Imam Malik as well was very strict about this. I've always had this thing as well, that when it comes to the Quran, you don't kind of like color it in, or you don't do stuff like that. You know, you don't mark up all your name and do all your own stuff on it. So it's the Quran at the end of the day. So once what you do is, once you've gone through this, let's say audio tafsir, or you've gone through whatever, now points that you're stuck on, research these, listen to some lectures, Google the words. Has anybody else done research on it? This is how you should approach the Quran. But the main thing was, you just went through a simple translation, and then you kind of fleshed it out. You added more meat to it. You added more kind of detail. So I hope now that's of some help. The key to serious learning, those of you that have asked, I want to be seriously learning, I have to say the key is you have to learn Arabic. You cannot get into any serious Islamic learning without knowing Arabic. Arabic is the key, people. It is the key. All right, now let's move on, people. Let's take some of the questions. Ra, the sun god. You're doing it, Ra. You're doing it. Right, for super chat. People, that's where the super chats are happening. आप लोग कहाँ पे, आप लोग यहाँ पे क्या कर रहे हो यार? Right, ¿qué es eso? What's going on? ¿Qué están haciendo? Over there, and on Facebook, it's the stickers. Ha 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 ha. So, what are your plans in Jannah? Paint the picture. What are my plans in Jannah? Ra is making plans of sending me. He's like, you know what, I think Mufti is kind of he's like, you know what, bahut ho gaya yaar. Kafa, this is enough, send him ahead, aage bhejo. He's like, oh, we've got another one coming. Somebody asked me about putting the Mus'haf on the floor, the Quran on the floor. I'm against that kind of stuff. That said, look, there is a context. I do understand that these things always have a context. It could be that you're studying the Quran and you're sitting on the floor. And you're sitting on the floor and you're studying the Quran, and then at some point you kind of put it down because you're reading it like that, and that's different. That I don't see. If you're on the floor, you're sitting there with it, you've got it in your hand, but maybe you kind of put it down to open a page, or maybe you try to focus, or that's understandable. I have no issues with like that, the context. But just generally, if I was here and I thought, well, this isn't the Mus'haf, but I thought, oh, this is a Mus'haf, so I just put it there on the floor. I don't like that at all. Similarly, putting any books on the Quran, for me, these things are, I wouldn't do things like that, and I don't like personally things like that. But I'm not saying it's haram, but I'm just saying that I find it, obviously you shouldn't, use the Quran as a resting thing. You shouldn't kind of put things on it. You should keep it. You should always have that kind of sanctity for the Quran. Right, so let's move on, people. Let's move on. Somebody asked Hadith analysis regarding Aisha's age. Yeah, that is to come. Iman has asked so much about what are your views on Mukhtar al-Thaqafi. Hi, Mukhtar al-Thaqafi. Alright, so just one more. Shahid Ahmed, you're doing it, Shahid. Eid Mubarak to you as well. You said Shahid has asked, I gotta pause here. It's super chat. Got to give priority to Eid Mubarak, Mufti. Likewise, Eid Mubarak, Shahid. Much love. I've got an ear piercing upon seeing your fatwa. I'm desi and earrings are looked down upon. How would you recommend going about dealing with family members, suitors, future in-laws? Somebody's asked, do you look at does Mufti look at Facebook questions? I do, Yusuf. It is all in front of me. Right, so Shahid, that's an interesting question, because the Desi community is really strange when it comes to earrings and boys. That said, it is quite common now. Somebody responded by pierce your nose so they don't pay attention to your earring. You go piercing. You go cha-cha-cha. That's the... 1 minute, let me show you. You go, yaar, ye belt utarne. Right, so look, you see, it's ultimately, I would say, it's difficult because this culture exists. Islamically, you can state to them, look, I don't believe it's haram. I believe that this is a cultural issue, but they probably might not accept what you have to say. You could say, look, Imam Malik, all these great Imams, the grandsons of the Prophet had earrings. Yeah, so Hassan and Hussein. Hussein, radiallahu anh, used to have 2 earrings. One in both ears pieced, and he had them on, like, some of the descriptions are on top as well and at the bottom. This thing of like ear piercing, this is very cultural, that in later years Muslim culture started to differentiate. But in early Islam, maybe for 100 to 200 years, this was still part and parcel of that culture, that Arab culture. It still existed. It started to die out with each generation, and then eventually completely kind of disappeared. But and it's interesting because the Desi culture, some people do pierce, they like that, but then they associate it with that malang, and I think the Shia do as well. They have no problem with it anyway. But then, I don't know, because you get regular, like Pakistanis, in the UK it's common now, but even when we were kids, there was the occasional, you meet some guy and he happens, his parents have given him an earring. It's like, so yeah, I would just say you explain to them, and it's up to them to accept you, but if it's that much of a big deal, you can take it off. But you see, to me, it's like, I think, personally, I suppose I'm at a stage in life now where I just don't care. But I suppose there was a stage where I did care what people said. But now I simply wouldn't care. If somebody said to me, they've got a problem with my earring, I'll be like, well, I'm sorry. What part of I look bothered? Did you misread? Because, I went to, I remember a few years back, we went to visit a Sheikh al-Hadith in about 2 years ago. Or actually less than 2 years ago. It's probably just about a year and a half. We went to visit a Sheikh al-Hadith. He invited us, and I think I've mentioned this before, and my friends were with me, close friends, and we drove there, and some of you see, when we got there, my mates said to me that, oh, take your earring off. Because they said, look, at that time it was quite new. It was quite recent. And they said to me, take it off because, this is wrong. Not that whether we believe it's wrong, but it's proprietarily speaking, the proprieties, it's the sheikh is not going to understand. He's going to see that. At that time, I think I had a stud in there, and it was like, the guy's going to look at you and think, what the hell, I've called a Mufti and ye can't say, Malang type, wearing an earring and doing this. And one, he looks as, wearing he's got a goatee. And I suppose he already knew what I looked like, but he hadn't seen the earring. But it was interesting, brief discussion. But my mates said to me, look, listen, it's not worth it, just take it off. So I said, no, I'm not going to take it off. So there was this little back and forth, go on, Mufti, just do it. And I said, look, I'm not gonna. No, the ear hole wouldn't have been an issue. It's not like the guy's going to be right up in my face. I turn around and he's like, he's not going to like be trying to kiss me. But obviously at a distance you couldn't see the hole, but because I've got an earring, it's silver, you'd be able to see it. Obviously at that time the stud would reflect. So I said, look, as a point of principle, I'm not going to take it off. I said, if he's got a problem, he's got a problem. Take it. So and to be fair, he obviously didn't say anything, but he was very respectful all the way through, the Sheikh was. And that obviously didn't come up, but fair enough. But it didn't detract from any hospitality. But I was like, look, I'm like this. At the end of the day, I don't take it off when I go in front of my dad. Like, why am I going to take it off in front of this guy? Like, who like, I mean, I respect him, but at the end of the day, I'm not a kid. It's not like I'm scared of these people. So I don't care. Like, at the end of the day, if they don't like me, they don't like me. But I've got enough friends. My list of friends is quite abundant. So, yeah, so that's what I would say. Right, somebody had asked about Mukhtar al-Thaqafi, because they had asked, relentlessly, spamming my Facebook page. Chalo yaar. Let's answer. Alright, so right, Ayman, you're doing it. Mufti looking dashing. Dashing. You teasing me, huh? So Mukhtar al-Thaqafi is an interesting character. He emerges in early Islam, and he is from the Shia to Ali. So what that means is he's from the early Muslims. The early Shia weren't, I suppose, a sect, but they were more a kind of those. He after the martyrdom of Hussein radiallahu anh, was the leader. But if he wasn't the leader, he was a leading prominent figure from this group that went and avenged the death of Hussein. So they killed off all the people that were involved in that Karbala attack, or the main figures. So this is the rise of Mukhtar al-Thaqafi. He is a strange, weird character, because he begins like that, but then he gets much more and more immersed, and he, at one point, people say he claimed prophethood, some people say he claimed to be the Messiah, some people say he claims Jibreel comes to him and gives him revelation. But this was like a kind of, arguably a slope. So he doesn't begin like that. He begins with this whole avenging Hussein radiallahu anh and that kind of stuff, and then later on he's all very pro-Mahdi, that there will be a Mahdi that will come. He initially wants that leader to be Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiya, the other brother of Hussein, the son of Ali, but not through Fatima. So he had, Ali radiallahu anh had other children. So amongst them is Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiya, from this woman who's called Hanafiya. So now he wanted Muhammad, and he claimed Muhammad is the Mahdi. See, his name is Muhammad, he's from the Prophet's family, he resembles the Prophet, etc., etc. But Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiya doesn't kind of buy it. He doesn't go, he's not too much with him. Then eventually Mukhtar himself claims to be the Mahdi, then he claims to have revelation, and I think he just eventually just goes kind of a bit loopy in the head. He is eventually killed, and it's quite interesting, intriguing, his whole story, because you see, with him, there was, you know, who, no, I'm mixing up the, that he, is it Abdullah ibn Zubayr? Yeah, it's quite interesting. Abdullah ibn Zubayr, radiallahu an, he is told by somebody in a kind of prophecy, a premonition. Somebody tells him that you will be killed by al-Fata al-Thaqafi. So the Thaqafi, and Thaqif is a tribe. It's from, so they mainly live outside of Mecca, not too far, around the Ta'if kind of region. They kind of were settled there, the Thaqif, Bani Thaqif. So he is Thaqafi because he's from that tribe. Now when he rises and he has this insurgency and he's got this group of people, and Abdullah ibn Zubayr thinks this is the premonition that Mukhtar al-Thaqafi is the one that's going to kill me. So he has his brother Mus'ab fight him, because Mus'ab is sent to Basra to kind of calm things down, and he takes over, and then he kills Mukhtar, and Mukhtar's head is served to him on a platter. Yeah, that's how it. And it's interesting because 5 heads are served to different. That whole thing, beginning with Hussein radiallahu an being served to. You've got Ubayd, and then Ubayd's head is served to Mukhtar, and then Mukhtar's head is served to Mus'ab, and then Mus'ab's head is served to Abdul Malik. And the person says, you know, in the past 12 years, he says, you know, he says, لقد رأيت, he says, أنا هنا منذ what is it, 12 عاما وقد رأيت 5 رؤوس or something. You know, I've seen 5 heads being placed in front of people. He was the kind of the guard, the royal guard. But anyway, Abdullah ibn Zubayr, he asks his brother that you need to eliminate this threat. And he does. He kills Mukhtar al-Thaqafi. Obviously, there's a battle going on. He kills him and his head is served. And then this head is sent to Abdullah ibn Zubayr to kind of give him that assurity that he is dead. So when the head comes to him, they put it, and they put it down in front of him on the ground. And they remove the kind of cloth, and it's his head, and Abdullah ibn Zubayr with a stick kind of like prods it, and he says, and they said that he will be the death of me. And you know, the writers write, like Dhahabi and all these historians, they write, وَلَمْ يَدْرِ ibn Zubayr أَنَّ الدَّهَرَ قَدْ خَبَّأَ لَهُ الْحَجَّاجِ. Right, so it's interesting because, you know, I mean, they say that, you know, that, and what was unbeknownst to him, that fate had hidden from Abdullah ibn Zubayr, Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi. Because at that point, Hajjaj hadn't truly risen. And Hajjaj was the death of Abdullah ibn Zubayr, radiallahu an, and a very tragic death, and had him, you know, then strung upside down outside of Mecca and pinned. But it's, yeah, I mean, sometimes, you know, these deeply shocking, mortifying, but also gripping events from Islamic history. Definitely worth reading up, people. Right, so let's move on, people. Let's move on. What are some questions? What is going down? Right, somebody's asked, do you believe in Hadith? Yes, I do believe in Hadith, and I've got plenty of lectures explaining that. So, what is going on? Muhammad, what is... Oh, I haven't read... I was going to share a poem with you guys. I came across a poem. Right, so... talk to us about scenic route. There was a poem I actually read. I thought, you know what, I gotta share this. Wow, 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 wow. It was epic. I mean, I don't know, like some poems, they just kind of hit you. And this, I thought, this was by Khalilur Rahman, Qamar, from Pakistan. And he says, Ashke nadan se kaho, baad mein pachtaenge. आप गिर के मेरी आंखों से किधर जाएंगे? तुमसे ले जाएंगे हम छीन कर वादे अपने, अब तो कसमों की सदाकत से भी डर जाएंगे. ओह, तौबा 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 तौबा. Sadaqat is the truthfulness. एक तेरा घर था मेरी हद मुसाफत, लेकिन अब ये सोचा है कि हम हद से गुजर जाएंगे. वाह 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 वाह. अपने अफकार जला डालेंगे कागज कागज, सोच मर जाएगी तो हम आप भी मर जाएंगे. इससे पहले के जुदाई की खबर तुमसे मिले, हमने सोचा है कि हम तुमसे बिछड़ जाएंगे. वाह वाह वाह. I gotta say, that is epic. I really, you know, some lines in this, I found that very powerful, that तुमसे ले जाएंगे हम छीन के वादे अपने, that we will snatch and take back all our promises from you. अब तो कसमों की सदाकत से भी डर जाएंगे. And I feel that this, I read in some places he'd written up, but I think this serves better. But because this is kind of bifold, it could mean that you from now on will, even the truthfulness of an oath will frighten the hell out of you. Or it could mean that he's speaking about himself, that the truthfulness of an oath will frighten me. But either way, says तुमसे ले जाएंगे हम छीन के वादे अपने, अब तो कसमों की भी सदाकत से डर जाएंगे. And this line, I thought, was it's golden, people. You know, by the way, masafat means distance. It's an Arabic word, and hadde masafat is the boundary of the distance. So what he's saying is, it was your house, your home, that was my limits. But now I have decided I will break all limits. But it just sounds so epic where he says, एक तेरा घर था मेरी हद मुसाफत, लेकिन अब ये सोचा है कि हम हद से गुजर जाएंगे. वाह 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 वाह. It's doing it, people. He's doing it. I read that, I thought, you know, I've got to share that. So, people, let's take some questions. Is it true that Islam is founded on 5 pillars? I don't know what founded means. What does that mean? Is founded. I suppose these are some key features of the rituals within Islam, but I'm not sure. So, what is going on? Mufti, can women go to the graveyard alone? The jinns. La Yarona. Yeah, I mean, women can go to a graveyard. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, I feel that there's a taboo with this thing of women and graves. Don't you think so? In a lot of cultures, people feel maybe women and spirits, and I suppose it's easy to make the connection between spirits, ghosts, and a graveyard, or even demons. But women, that, I'm not sure how that crept in, but that is there as well in many cultures. There seems to be this taboo about women in graveyards. I don't think it's really anything substantiated. It's not an issue. Right, so it's all cool. as to, there is a hadith that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he sees a woman who's crying at a graveside, and the Prophet asks her to be patient, and she's like in a proper state. She's like really bawling. Obviously not a laughing matter, but I mean it's not like just crying like tears, but like bawling. And the Prophet ﷺ asks her, look, be patient, be patient. I think her brother has died or something, or maybe her husband, I can't recall now, but somebody had died. I'm pretty sure it's the brother. But so she's in a state, and the Prophet asks her, look, be patient and you will have an immense reward. But she carries on kind of bawling, and the Prophet leaves her. But then later on she comes to the Prophet and says, okay, now I will have patience. And the Prophet says, إِنَّمَا الصَّبْرُ إِنْ the صَدْمَةِ الْأُولَى. Allah. The Prophet says that, patience is when the calamity first strikes. Chalo ye bhi sahi hai, like now, ab to waise hi, now, obviously you've bawled your head off, so now you're going to stop crying anyway. What? Now, this isn't called patience. This is just the bawling's over. Patience is in the beginning. So, at the first strike of the calamity, إِنَّمَا الصَّبْرُ إِنْ the صَدْمَةِ الْأُولَى. Not afterwards. Afterwards, it's just called, okay, I've run out of losing my voice box now, and I'm running out of tears. So, cool. What is going on, people? What is going on? Was Imam Tabari, Nasa'i, and Hakim Shia inclined? Yeah, I think they were. I think they were. I think Tabari was definitely a closet Shia. I'm not saying that as a bad thing. I'm not saying it as a, just in case. Now that, I haven't been using this. Now that I've got this, I need to be kind of like, I need to be, peoples, my style, people.
Oh my God! Wow!
Assalamu alaikum.
All right, see, boys' toys, people. That's the thing. So, look, yes, it is true that I feel, this is in my, I could be wrong, but I feel that he was definitely, Tabari was a kind of closet Shia. He just kept it on the down low, but he definitely, same thing with Zuhri. I feel Zuhri was a Shia. It's strange, but I feel that he kind of fluctuated in life. Like sometimes he may have been a bit anti-Shia, but I feel towards the later part of his life, he must have regretted and then come back towards the whole Shia thing. The whole narrative, because a lot of the Shia things in Sunni Islam creep in through these two characters, through Zuhri and through Tabari. Tabari just brings it in cargo load. Tabari is like, acha, manufacturing, wholesale. Tabari is like, kya matlab factory bande? Who says the production has ended? Main hu na. He just dumps so much Shia narrations into Sunni Islam. It's crazy, man. And other weird stuff as well. Crazy stuff Tabari brings in. But yeah, so And you know, Allama Tamanna Imadi, he has a great book in Urdu, a very detailed book on Abu Ja'far al-Tabari, detailing how he is, and he has one on Zuhri as well, but detailing how Tabari was a Shia. And it's very fascinating, so you can check that out definitely. Right, what was some other questions, people? Questions. Hakim and the other people, by the way, I think they were inclined, but not huge. They weren't like. I don't think they kind of, create were. You see, I don't think they created any problems by being slightly Shia inclined. I don't think they were. I think they were Sunni, but just with a subtle inclination to a more inclination towards Ali radiallahu an. So it's a very kind of a light, a filtered, a watered down kind of like a Shia inclination. But they weren't. You wouldn't really put them as Shia. I don't think that would make them as Shia per se. So, whereas Tabari and Zuhri, I feel that they may have been closet actual Shia. Daniel Ramirez, you're doing it, man. You're doing it. The affairs of men were in harmony until they were changed by Abu Hanifa in Kufa, Al-Batti in Basra, and Malik in Medina. Sufyan ibn Uyayna. Wah, 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 wah. Uthman al-Batti, from Uthman al-Batti, was in Basra. But yeah, you see, I don't know if that's a fair statement because Sufyan ibn Uyayna himself, to a great extent was clout chasing. Why lie, people? Sufyan ibn Uyayna himself, he, I feel, wanted to be the number one person, like all scholars do. But he, especially in Hijaz, in the Arabian Peninsula, and he was great at Hadith, but he wasn't obviously a match for Imam Malik. So he obviously, and you have to remember, people like Sufyan ibn Uyayna, much of their kudos got eclipsed by the presence of these people. I would say, you see, people like Imam Abu Hanifa, people like Imam Malik, in their lifetimes, were of super, kind of like celebrity status when it comes to being ulama, scholars. They were huge. Uthman al-Batti, okay, now we don't hear much about him, but maybe he was quite huge as well back then. I know he obviously was huge, as in he had a madhab, but I didn't realize how much of a following he had. But yeah, so it's quite natural for people to make statements against other people. It makes, to a great extent, it does make sense. But then he is the same guy as well. You see him, with Hadith, the amount of kind of blagging he does in Hadith. So I say blagging, but I don't mean lying. But how he would, take certain books, not read them to certain sheikhs. Is it okay I just narrate this whole book of yours from you? Yeah, cool. And all this stuff. So it's crazy. I would feel that, yeah, fine, but I would take that statement with a pinch of salt because he was equally clout chasing, and these people were eclipsing his son. So it's natural. Right, I want to say this thing about the Shia, it just reminded me that there's been an incident in the UK. So there's a tragic incident recently that a girl by the name of Aya Hassem, I believe that's how they pronounce it, she was murdered brutally. And, may Allah grant her an elevated maqam in Jannatul Firdaus. On the back of that, there was a matters unfolded and a drama kind of unfolded. So first of all, there was this tragic thing. She was murdered, gunned down, shot down and killed in Blackburn, I believe, in the UK. And what had happened is then this page emerges to ask for sadaqat, to collect money, a kind of I think it was a GoFundMe page, to collect money for her janazah. People start giving money. Then some people realize, oh, but she was a Shia. So they don't want anything to do with the Shia. So they say that, how do I get a refund? Astaghfirullah. Toba, toba, toba. You know? Honestly, it's not a laughing matter, but it's the absurdity of it can make one laugh. That would somebody really say something like that? These people are out of their mind. I mean, first of all, how can you ask for charity back anyway? From anywhere? You know, there's a hadith in Sahih Muslim that the Prophet said the person who returns to his sadaqah, to his charity, is like a dog that has gone back to consume its own vomit. Kal kalb ya'udu ila qay'ihi. You know, this is that. How can you, like, that is one of the most shameful, disappointing, despicable acts ever, that you give in charity. That وَلَا تُبْطِلُوا صَدَقَاتِكُمْ. You know, Allah says, do not invalidate your own sadaqat. Secondly, you invalidate it on the grounds of sectarianism, which is ridiculous. Even if it was a non-Muslim, even if it was any religion or an atheist, the fact that you gave in sadaqah to help ease the burden of that family is an immensely rewarding act. You know, you don't need to, and to say, well, oh, I realize this person wasn't on the same theological spectrum as me, give me my money back. You know, it's the arrogance. It was so it's so disappointing, honestly, and disgusting. Honestly, I was shocked. And then there was another plot twist to this whole scenario with surrounding, following on, you know, following the death of Ayah Hassan. The second layer spin was that the charity page itself apparently wasn't even really entitled to be collecting money. So the charity page, I hear, emerges to say, well, oh, we're going to, I suppose this could be a bit of the masala segment. This person who's collecting money for Ayah Hassan's janazah doesn't actually know Ayah, doesn't know her family, is not involved with anything. Then when he gets clocked on this, he changes the cause of the charity. So it's still for Ayah Hassan, but it's no longer for her janazah. It's to now build a mosque in her name. And then people are like, well, but apparently, do you even know this girl? And he's like, yes, of course I know her, I know the family. And then somebody comments and posts her brother's statement saying, look, we have not authorized anybody. No, Ayah has not asked for any masjids to be built like this. Nobody should be collecting money in her name. Right, so then, and there's this whole thing that spins off from here. So this person then saying, no, but, I wanted to collect money anyway, and I wanted to... Astaghfir, toba, toba, toba. This is a double whammy. This is like they're doubling down on how disgusting certain Muslims have become. A girl dies in a tragedy, and you are using this, you're capitalizing on this opportunity to scam money from people. your personal goals, whatever you're trying to do. Like you've got a center, you've got a masjid, you want to improve your masjid. Oh, she's dead. Let's post her picture and say that what we're going to do is collect money in her name. Stuff. This is how low certain people have dropped and stooped. That is crazy. Honestly, I was like, I was disgusted with the sectarianism. Then I realized, oh, wait a minute, this whole charity thing, you start reading some of these comments, it's not legitimate. And then he changes. He says, well, I never really said it was like this. I was just doing it for. And you think, well, what on earth is going on here? Right. Right. So, okay, sorry, I was just reading something there. So it is so embarrassing. So this is what I would say is, look, people do, when you are about to, first of all, first point is that any tragedy, they were a human being. Sectarianism should never come into it. I would say religion shouldn't even come into it. If they were a human being, that is enough. Okay. The fact that they were Muslim might make them even closer to you, as, because you share the whole belief structure with that person. And that's awesome. And you can do dua, you do maybe attend their janazah, or you do things. But just, first of all, having that sympathy or having that offering condolences is just about being a human being. So that is a very important factor. The second thing is, when you are going to help, be wary that some people might be scamming you on the back of your human frailty and your weakness to kind of, and your empathy. They may be kind of capitalizing on that. So do check that out. Right. So these are some important points, people. Cool. All right. Mufti, have you heard of the black banners of the East and the movement? Yeah, I don't believe in those hadith really. I think most, as Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal said, that look, he said that this whole genre to do with the apocalyptic events before the end of time is made up. He said la asla lahu. Right, so people, what is going on? Mufti Saab, what is your daily quarantine routine? My only constant is chaos. It is sad but true. Honestly, I envy people with a routine. As John Elia would say, क्या तकल्लुफ करें ये कहने में कि जो भी खुश है हम उनसे जलते हैं. John Elia says that why should we shy away from just saying it, that whosoever is happy, we're jealous of them. Hi, John Elia was a legend, though, in his own. He just resonates sometimes, some of those, when he has some of these poems. But he has some cruel poems as well sometimes. But they're interesting. They resonate still. Even when they're cruelty. It's like, where he speaks about some girl. As you do. The one. I don't know, is there the one, people? But the one. And the one that you can't. The one that got away. Allah, 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 Allah. And he's like everything else since you has just been a substitute. That's me putting it in my words, but in his words, he says, Bagal mein take ki hasina hai. That he's like, this that I've got here, this he says this Hasina is like a beautiful girl, but he says at my side I've got a cheap takeki, like a cheap beautiful girl, like meaning that she's doesn't amount to anything, but she's beautiful. But he says बगल में टके की हसीना है तुम्हारी फुरकत गुजारी जा रही है. What he says that this is us having to substitute your separation. Allah, he says everything else, this is how we, it's just, you know, this is just a substitute. We have to just get by now. What else is going on? So, people, side piece. This is my side piece, he's saying. But, yeah, interesting person nevertheless. So, people, what is going on? What hadith about fasting the 6 days of Shawwal? Are they all weak? Yeah, I don't believe that it's authentic, but I feel fine. If people want to do it, it's all good. I wouldn't, you know, deter people from doing it. Let's just be honest. You know, we don't get round to it because we're not that, we don't feel like it. It's like Ghalib says that मैं जानता हूँ सवाब इताअत और ज़ुहद पर तबीयत इधर नहीं आती. You know, it's not that I don't know the rewards, it's just I don't feel like it. And in that sense, you know, we don't get round to it. But as it just so happens in the Maliki madhab, Imam Malik never liked it anyway, said it wasn't authentic. So now we've got an excuse. Hashtag real talk, people, real talk. What is going on, people? 6 a.m. in Pakistan. You're doing it. Somebody said don't believe in the apocalypse. Yeah, I mean, the apocalypse, if you mean by that the universe will come to an end, I'm sure it will at some point. Look, the universe has to come to an end. It will either kind of explode or implode. I mean, it will come to an end. But do these events have to happen in this particular way? Why do Molvis generally lack IQ? I think that the madrasa system dumbs people down. That is a huge problem, really. Yeah, huge problem. Right, and they need to kind of introduce critical thinking, really. Ra has asked that I never asked my question about what are my plans in Jannah. I mean, who... You just want me to kind of fantasize about things and vocalize my fantasies. I'm like in a swimming pool and it's just full of all these hur. I'm like, yeah, I'm like, Jannati, Jannati. Like, yo, what's up, man? What's happening? And then you've got other people, they're like, yeah, we're missing prayers. We should be praying. Right, is that... To be honest, people, when they picture Jannah, they just picture like one like huge kind of like an orgy going on, isn't it? Not to be crude with my words, but this is what is pictured by people, isn't it? Just it's all, you know, just a kind of a bliss, a hedonistic bliss. And this is why Ghalib said that, you know, in his poem, that मुझे मालूम है जन्नत की हकीकत लेकिन दिल के खुश रखने को गालिब ख्याल अच्छा है. He says that, you know, I know the reality of Jannah, Ghalib, but this idea is still good in keeping the heart happy. You know, it's, you know, when you start picturing. Right, okay, on this, somebody had asked that, look, what about the hurs? Do women not get hur, or is it just men? Are the urges just for men? we're like, okay, who gets hurs? Right, so we're like, I know how to settle this. Look down. If you've got a penis, then the answer is yes. You're in, you get them. No? Okay, take it. Anybody else? No? Okay, take it. So the question is that, this obviously bothers certain people that, look, that's not fair, won't women get this? And I would say, look, personally, the Quranic discourse would apply equally for men and women. So women would equally, if that's how they want to picture it and that's what they want to get, right? So yes, that they would be hur equally in that sense for women, hur men. You see, hur, to be fair, would be the Arabic plural of hawra, but it could equally be the plural of ahwar. It could be a plural for both in that sense. Same thing with ayn. They say ayna, like deep-eyed, like, but hurun ayn. But the thing is, it could be for ayun. But my point is that it could mean about a man who's got that coloured eyes and, dark eyes and things like that. It doesn't have to be for women. But it's just that because the Quran is generally, the discourse is aimed with the male pronoun, so that's how it is. But going by this understanding of Jannah, so let's say if we're going with a very literal understanding of Jannah, that Jannah is literally about oases and it's about sex and it's about all of these things and it's about alcohol and chilling and just, it's like a tropical holiday. That's what it is, let's say. Then in that sense, if we're going with that, there is the other view that, look, this imagery in the Quran is just symbolic. The Akhirah is more, it's nothing gonna be like this. And I'm more inclined to that view, that it's all symbolic in the Quran, the imagery. And the Akhirah is more to do with consciousness. And I don't even think there will be things like gender. I don't even think that will probably exist. But then people, because we can't relate to that, we'll be like, what the hell does that even mean? What the hell is consciousness? This is why you need to try some mushrooms. Or DMT. But the thing is that people will think, look, well, what is all of this? This doesn't make sense. So to most people, this makes sense. So fine, if we're going with a literal version of Jannah, literal, absolutely textual, rivers actually with milk, यार दूध पत्ती चाय हो जाए यार. हाँ, दूध पत्ती या पत्नी, अच्छा पत्ती. That could have been we've had that question before previously where the wife kind of and the husband accidentally drank that milk, but this is not this one. Yeah, you haramis. You haramis that are thinking that cha that kind of milk. You're not going to even get into Jannah. You're just going to see it from a distance. You're like, what is this? So now, the people that are taking it literally, look, rivers of honey, here's my cup, I'm just going to dip it in here, I've got a glass of milk now. Acha, chalo, doodh pee ke so jao. That's a good boy. Drink your milk and go to sleep. You're like, yaar. But I came to Jannah. Oh, I want to kind of like chill. They're like, no, yellow, doodh pio. Drink the milk. It's like, now go to sleep. So if you're taking it literally, can women not have men? I feel they would as well. In the literal version, I feel women would have as many men as they want, or they would have a man or two men, or chalo, whatever as the Quran says, look, ma tashtahil anfus, whatever your heart's desire. If that's what the heart desires, men. But I definitely feel that it doesn't have to be 10 men or 20 men or 2 men or 3 men or huh? Oh, doesn't have to be, people watching this like start getting distracted and start thinking, hi, I see ऐसी कोई film भी देखी थी मैंने. They're like, yeah. I've watched, for research. I was watching, that was research to do with that. So, it doesn't mean even if it's one man, but it could be, the point is that the hur, this perfect, if we're going with the literal understanding, the perfect heavenly companion or companions, right, for women would be men, like heavenly men. I don't mean men from this world. So, but the truth is that, do you know what? The Quran, I feel the Quranic discourse includes that for women. But what happened is, along the way, as Muslim culture developed, men found it, Alma, Ayman, you're doing it, man. Much love. Right, so, I feel that as Muslim culture developed, there was a taboo about thinking. You see, people are very insecure about thinking of their women with other men. That's always a huge no-no, especially in Muslim cultures and in other cultures, but in especially, like there's a huge, no, oh my God. And especially, obviously, it could be the person's wife, but it could be other people, not even his wife. It could be his sister, but he's still thinking, other men. Like, so the point is that this is a very taboo thing. Our culture is, when you think about it, so weird that, like, imagine, no, I'm just saying, when you unpack these things and take them apart. Now, look, the thought of sex, and with any, like, when it comes to females within the Muslim culture, not for the men themselves, for men themselves, obviously, always thinking about it, but when it comes to other female members of their family, it's like, so, oh my God, that is so filthy. It'd be like, that slut. And so, look, if you think about it, here is, like, if a man saw, let's say, that female member holding hands with a man, or God forbid, like, let's say he saw her hugging, or he saw her kissing, or he saw her, all hell will break loose. What the hell, or let's say, even if the man was interested in her, he was kind of pursuing her, and they're holding hands, or they're doing, it'd be like, what the hell, this is disgusting, this is like this, and people do all these honor killings, and they do all these ridiculous things. But yet, you'll have, like, when you think about it, a marriage. What is a marriage? Like, the man will come, and he'll say, yeah, oh, I'm asking for your daughter's hand in marriage, or for your sister's hand, or whatever it is. And people are really happy, and in essence, he's just saying the same thing, isn't he? He's just saying, oh yeah, I just want to take her and I want to have sex with her. That's all he's saying in different words. And they're like, yeah, bring him a Thailand, yeah, bring some dessert for this person. Don't you know what he's about to do? Quite energy though, yeah, bring the Red Bull. They're like, yeah, give him some gifts. Give him a gold watch. Do you know what he wants to do? And that same person could have just been, like, could have been pursuing her, maybe holding her hand out. So it's like, they want to kill him. So it's crazy what social narratives do to our perspectives. So, yeah, so this thing about women, people, you see, in Muslim culture later on, they pictured, our women in heaven with other men. Toba. No, they're only gonna get the same husbands they were with. That's like an absolute bummer. That's like, what the hell is that about? It's like, here as well. What the hell? No, can you just send me to hell, please? Can I go to hell? Hell. Is hell an option? Can I do something bad here? Can I disqualify? This is crazy, people. This is crazy. That's why I get confused when some Muslim men will fight tooth and nail for multiple wives, and I ask why women get jealous. Like, do men not get jealous when thinking of their wives and other men? I think exactly they do. And I think, in fact, men are much more insecure about, let's say, women being with other men. Or like in this question that Hina has asked, like wives with other, you know. In fact, they were, you know, without getting into too much detail, but there was a very fascinating discussion some friends and me were actually having on this topic. And it's interesting to gauge reactions that if, let's say you were to marry someone, but you knew that she had a relationship with someone, would that bother you? And would it bother you if that person was also a friend of yours in the past? And how it's interesting kind of gauging people's reactions. And I think it's definitely true that this is a huge, there's so much insecurities with men, and more so Muslim men. I think they're massively insecure. Like, I think it bothers people so much, these kind of things, that, yeah. And society, to be fair, it's not exclusively a Muslim thing. This is it's cross-cultural, but it's less so in the West. It's still there, but less so, and it's just extreme in the Muslim world and in other cultures. Can you recommend? Right. So, how would you refute the claim that the Prophet had? Look at this. Wow. See, look, Farhan, interested in the real questions. He's like, yeah, what's this talking about men, women, paradise, sex? What's this? What is this? Talk about real gritty stuff, about the real, let's get to the real dini stuff, which is a question here by Mustafiz Khan. Is it fraud by taking money from banks haram? Is fraud by taking money from banks haram? I mean, Mustafiz Khan, I don't even understand that question. Are you asking about fraudulently taking money? If you're fraudulently taking money, then it is haram. If you mean, is taking money from banks haram? I don't know how banks give people money. Do you mean as a loan? No, that's not haram. Do you mean as an overdraft? No, that's not haram. If that's what you meant, I hope that answers some question. Right, people, you know what? Let's do a few rapid rounds and then let's wrap this up for tonight. I think it's been a bit of a day. If you've got a gun, yeah, that's another way that banks give you money. That's a good point, Clear. Oh, it's like that robber when they asked him, why did you rob banks? And he said, well, that's where the money is. I thought, what? Chalo, ye bhi sahi hai. That's a point ki baat. Point. What's some questions? Would men and women share space during the Prophet's time? They absolutely would. There was shared space during the Prophet's time. I have got some detailed videos on that. Somebody said, Mufti, if my wife remarries after I die, do I have to fight a new hubby in Jannah? Oh, look at the love Ikram has got for his wife, huh? He's like, not only, he's asking, not only do I get to be with it, I'm prepared to fight. I'm prepared to fight the next guy off, that too in Jannah. Ayo Ikram. That guy's probably like stressed that this wife has followed him to Jannah. and then he's got Ikram to fight. He's like, why are we fighting? He's getting punched in the face by Ikram. He's like, look, I would pay you, take her. But Ikram's beating him up and he's got the wife. And like, she must be like, no, we're going to be here together for eternity. Ila al-abad. Oh yeah. Khalidina fiha. Oh yeah. That would be hilarious. So, yeah, nobody knows who's going to paradise. Billy, you're doing it. Billy's in the house, people. Eid Mubarak, Billy. Somebody, can I have you in Jannah? Hi, you naughty. Jannah kyun? Well, we can make a Jannah on earth. Is burglary haram? Toba. Of course, burglary. You know, a thief is one of the most despised categories of humans. Thieves. There's absolutely no honor, an absolute disgrace. Utterly haram. Right, so did Sheikh Asrar, Sheikh Asrar, gee, my beloved. So I've got several videos where I reply to Sheikh Asrar, do check them out. What was Imam Malik's view on who belonged to the Ahlul Bayt? Imam Malik actually just said the Ahl of the Prophet are his followers, atba'uhu. So in that sense, yeah, this is generally speaking, the Ahl of the Prophet are all of his followers according to Imam Malik. Obviously, when we say things like Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. He said that this was atba'i Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. But when we're talking about zakat and rulings like that, that's different. That would generally be the Bani Hashim. That's what it would be. People, let's wrap this up. You know, I think it's been quite a while. Other than that, we've got, other than that, I think nature calls people, and if I don't, we'll get so I had to bring that up as always. That's what's gonna happen. So as always, people, listen, if you're on TikTok, even if you're not, get on TikTok, people, and once you're on it, let me just bring this back up. Right, so go to my page and subscribe, folks. This is it. You're doing it, man. You're doing it, people. This is the page. Right, so let me just close that. Yeah, there it is. All right, so get on there, like, subscribe, share. If you want to reach out to me, message me, Instagram, Facebook Messenger, TikTok, whatever it is. I hope you've had an awesome Eid. Take very good care of yourselves. Remember, people, to learn, but also to laugh. It is very important. It's important for your mental health, well-being, right? Even if you do end up a little crazy. I was reading, it's Charles Bukowski has an amazing quote where he says, some people never go crazy. What truly horrible lives they must live. Guys, so do subscribe. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube, then may God forgive you. I'm bringing up the page. Much love. Take care of yourselves. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.